The crescent of Muharram is upon us. Alhamdulillah, الذي رزقنا عزاء الحسين عليه السلام. We thank Allah Azza wa Jal, and we humbly thank Him for blessing us with another year in commemorating the martyrdom of Abu Abdullah and Hussein alayhi salam. This occasion, which is an occasion marked in the heavens before it is marked on earth. It is a mourning occasion which is commemorated by the angels of Allah Ta'ala before the children of Adam, before the advent and the creation of Adam Eve, according to our narration. This is a calamity which is mourned by the prophets of Allah Azza wa Jal, from Adam to Nuh to Ibrahim, Musa, Isa, and to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So congratulations to you, brothers and sisters, for sharing in this thawab, for taking part in a commemoration which is heavenly before it is world, for commemorating with the angels and with the Hur al-Ain, as Ziyarat al-Nahiya says, for sharing this grief with Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa and with Fatima alayha salam, and with Amir al-Mu'mineen salam. Now that this month of mourning has begun, I'd like to use this first night to lay the groundwork, inshallah. To lay the groundwork for our etiquette, to lay the groundwork for our philosophy, to lay the groundwork for a successful Muharram. The verse we open up with, Allah Ta'ala speaks about exalting the signs of Allah. Allah Azza wa Jal is saying to us that wherever there is a sign leading or pointing towards Allah, something which is considered guiding those into the direction of Allah Azza wa Jal, Allah in this verse says to us, then it is incumbent upon the believer to exalt this sign and make a spectacle of this sign and commemorate this sign and make a big deal out of this sign. And we know no greater symbol of Allah Ta'ala than Al-Hussein ibn Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. He is the grandest sha'ira of Allah Ta'ala. Ayatullah al-Kubra, Al-Hussein alayhi salam. If anything pointed towards Allah Ta'ala, it is Al-Hussein salam. If anything guides us towards the religion of Allah Ta'ala, it is Al-Hussein alayhi salam. If anything makes clear, or anyone made clear for us, the religion of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, it is Al-Hussein ibn Ali alayhi salam. For without Al-Hussein, salamullahi alayhi, ala al-Islam is-salam, there is no Islam. This is one of the interpretations to the narration, Husaynun minni wa ana min Husayn. The first half is understood. Hussein is from me, Rasulullah says. It's very clear that the grandson is from the grandfather. The strange part is the second half of the narration, wa ana min Husayn, and I am from Hussein. How can it be that the grandfather is from the grandson? This doesn't make sense. Our ulama have interpreted that it is the religion of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi that is from Hussein. Had it not been, understand this, brothers and sisters, and I mean this seriously, all that we have today, as Sayyid al-Imam al-Khomeini Quddisa Sirruhu al-Sharif, if we can have a salawat for his soul, please. Sayyid al-Imam rahmatullah alayhi, he says that all that we have today from Islam, we have it because of Ashura. It is simply because, again, pay attention. It is simply because of this stance that Abu Abdullah alayhi salam takes on the 10th day of Muharram in the year 61 after Hijrah. It is because of this stance that we have Islam. Everything that you have, from your Quran, to your Salat, to your fasting, to the most basic rules of Tahara, the understanding of Tawheed, the understanding of Adala, the understanding of Nubuwwah, the mere preservation of the name of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi. This holy name, which was on the verge of eradication at the time of Yazid ibn Muawiyah, la'anatullahi alayhima. Yazid had a mission to eradicate not only the religion of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi, but the very name of the Holy Messenger. To the point that when Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salam stands in the court of Yazid, and Yazid la'natullahi alayhi attempts to silence Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salam through adhan, when the Imam hears the Mu'addin say, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, the Imam salamullahi alayhi declares this a victory. He says, so long as the Muslims are still testifying that my grandfather Muhammad is the messenger of Allah, then we are victorious. Salamullahi alayhi al-Hussein, he removes Islam from the jaws of the dragon. Just as the light of Allah Ta'ala was about to be extinguished, through his blood, salamullahi alayhi, reignites the fire of this religion, and it burns strong today. So we have a responsibility, brothers and sisters. In these coming nights, we need to understand that these majalis that we are attending, this blessed majlis, may Allah Azza wa Jal bless the founders of this majlis and the volunteers and the attendees and everyone who took part in all of the majalis of Al-Hussein alayhi salam all over the world. These majalis are divine. These majalis, they are the gathering place of the angels of Allah Ta'ala. So there is a particular etiquette when it comes to the ta'zeem of these majalis, the exaltation of these majalis. The Majlis of Al-Hussein alayhi salam goes beyond these walls. The commemoration of Abu Abdullah alayhi salam is not limited to the masjid or the Husayniyah or the center. The commemoration of Al-Hussein alayhi salam, when Allah commands us to exalt this sha'ira, this is a sha'ira which needs to color our very existence. Our entire existence for the next, at the very least, 10 nights, at the very least. And the tragedy of Al-Hussein alayhi salam begins on the day of Ashura. But at the very least, when we are traditionally attending these majalis, we, the Shia of Al-Hussein alayhi salam, we must put on a spectacle. Our grief must be on display, whether it be through our clothing. I see most of you, alhamdulillah rabbil alameen, are in black. You see, the wearing of black, at the very least, our maraja, our ulama have the opinion that the wearing of black, at the very least in your salat, is makruh. At the very least. Unless it's a black abaya like this one, at the very least in your salat is makruh. However, if wearing this black is a symbol of grief for Al-Hussein alayhi salam, if it's a symbol of jaza, if you have worn it out of grief for Al-Hussein alayhi salam, it becomes what? It becomes mustahab. Becomes mustahab. So something as simple as continuously wearing black in these days of Al-Hussein, making a display of the grief, the decorations of your homes with the symbols of mourning, with the banners, with the black flags, even your cars, your children, giving out food for the love of Al-Hussein alayhi salam, holding on to the ziyarah of Abu Abdullah alayhi salam. Ziyarat Ashura is not just for the day of Ashura. Ziyarat Ashura, in fact, should not be abandoned on any day. We are muqassirin when it comes to the ziyarah of Ashura. Imam al-Rida alayhi salam, he narrates, he says that on a night like tonight, when the crescent of Muharram would become clear in the sky, he says, I would not see my father smiling or laughing, and the grief would show on his face. Referring to Imam al-Kadhim alayhi salam. And understand, when we say that an Imam is doing this, an Imam, brothers and sisters, is not like you and I. He is not a regular human being like you and I. Yes, they are humans. Humans in the sense that they are children of Adam alayhi salam. But when it comes to their station with Allah Ta'ala, when it comes to their nearness and their ma'rifah and knowledge of Allah Ta'ala, the Imam's actions and the Imam's words are in sync and in line with the will of Allah Ta'ala. So much so that if Allah wills, the Imam wills, and vice versa. If the Imam wills, Allah Ta'ala wills. The will of the Ma'soom and the will of the Imam are in line with one another. This is why the Holy Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa alihi says, Fatima bid'atun minni, faman adhaha faqad adhani, wa man adhani faqad adha Allah. That Fatima is a part of me. Whoever harms her harms me, and whoever harms me harms Allah. Then he goes on to say, Yaradallah liridaha. That Allah Ta'ala is pleased with whatever Fatima alayha salam is pleased with. So the will of Fatima alayha salam is the will of who? Of Allah Ta'ala. Allah. So when your Imam Al-Kadhim alayhi salam is displaying this state of grief on the first night of Muharram, and Imam al-Rida alayhi salam says to us that this state of grief will remain up until the 10th day, Yawm al-Ashir, and he says, and on the 10th day would be the day of his great calamity. Yani on that day, this grief would explode. This is not the explosion of emotional grief. This is not the Imam alayhi salam being an emotional being, crying for his great-great-great-grandfather. How many of you here even know the name of your grandfather's grandfather? If anyone came and said to you, this is how your great-grandfather passed away, would you be grief-stricken? Rahmatul. No matter how tragic that death was, you would say Rahmatullah, right? And you continue on with your day. So this is beyond personal grief and personal emotions. The Imam alayhi salam is reflecting or relaying to us the will of Allah Azza wa Jal, that Allah intends, because this is a day of rage for Allah Ta'ala. This was a calamity which angered Allah Azza wa Jal. This was a calamity which upset and tore the heart of the Holy Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa alihi before the advent of Al-Hussein alayhi salam. Then this calamity which Imam Al-Kadhim alayhi salam and all the Imams commemorate is directly tied to Allah Ta'ala. These are the days of Allah Azza wa Jal. The throne of Allah Ta'ala Himself are decorated in the black banners of Al Hussein alayhi salam. So the eulogies, don't think that these eulogies and these gatherings, brothers and sisters, are simple customs and traditions. Just something that we've gotten used to over the years. This is not tabuli and qima and harisa. This isn't culture. What you are doing, you are carrying on a divine purpose. These are the gatherings which Al-Muhammad alayhimussalatu wassalam would call for. These are the gatherings which Fatima alayha salam herself promises she will attend. So in these gatherings, you and I, we have a duty to act accordingly. Brothers, sisters, you are in the presence of As-Siddiq al-Kubra Fatima alayha salam. The holy eye of Fatima alayha salam overlooks each and every one of us tonight. Act in a manner which you want Fatima salamullahi alayha to see you in, with your haya and your modesty and your akhlaq and your mannerisms and your grief. Humble yourself before Abu Abdullah alayhi salam. You know, our ulama, those of you who have had the blessings to go and sit with some of our maraji', may Allah Ta'ala preserve them all, and to meet our maraji', you will see that there is a particular mannerism that a marja' carries himself. Even when it comes to the gatherings of Aza and Latam, usually it is the youth who are enthusiastic about the Latam. Usually it is the youth who take part in the mawakib and the masirat and in the crying and in the wailing and the mourning. And the maraji' or the ulama try to maintain, not all of them, most of them, they try to maintain some sort of etiquette, to not be seen in such a state. One of our ulama, Al-Allama Bahr al-Ulum, rahmatullah alayh, in one of these majalis, it's narrated that as he was watching the youth performing Latam of Al-Hussein alayhi salam, and they were performing it with passion, all of a sudden they see him remove his amama and remove his abaya and join the Latam, beating his chest and his head for Al-Hussein alayhi salam. After the majlis, they ask him, they say to him, Maulana, you're an esteemed scholar. It's not befitting for you to behave like this, like a common person. This is for commoners, not for ulama. He says, كيف هذا؟ وقد رأيت سيدي ومولاي صاحب العصر والزمان يلطم الرأس والصدر. He says, صلوا على محمد وآله. He says, how can you ask this of me? He says, by Allah, I saw my master, Imam al-Zaman, Ajjalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu al-Sharif, in the midst of this latmiyah, beating his head and his chest. In the majalis of Al-Hussein alayhi salam, there is no status. Humble yourself before Al-Hussein alayhi salam. Forget your prestige at the door. Maintain the high temp of emotions, the wailing and the crying feverishly. These are necessary and they are holy and they are esteemed divine. They are divine actions. These are actions of ibadah. But they are not the goal. They are necessary, but they are not the objective. The majalis are necessary. The black is necessary. The mourning is necessary. The mawakib are necessary. The food, all of these things done to commemorate Al-Hussein alayhi salam, they are necessary and they are important and they are acts of ibadah. but they are not the objective. Please pay attention. They are not the goal. If your commemoration of Al Hussein alayhi salam this year and every year is limited to this, then you have boarded the ship without any destination. You have taken upon yourself the means without keeping in mind the ultimate goal. We said that Al Hussein alayhi salam is a sha'ira of Allah. So if these majalis do not lead you to Allah Ta'ala, if these majalis do not improve your relationship with Allah Ta'ala, if they do not increase your knowledge of Allah Ta'ala, if they do not make strong that bond between you and Allah Azza wa Jal, then this is not a majlis of Al Hussein alayhi salam. It is not a majlis of Abu Abdullah. You have come and you have taken part in the means, but you did not reach the end. You did not reach the end. You sat on that ship and you went around in circles and you did not reach your destination. More than that. We have a responsibility to maintain the sanctity of these majalis. You know, here in Sydney, Australia, we are blessed with this comfort that we have. We are able to hold these majalis without any fear for the time being. This could change very quickly. Without any fear, without any threats, without any hindrance. Come and practice your love for Al Hussein alayhi salam as you wish and as you please. But this did not come for free. This was not cheap. As we sit comfortably in these majalis, brothers and sisters, you have brothers today shedding their blood, sacrificing their lives, making their children's orphans in order to preserve these majalis of Al Hussein alayhi salam. Our ulama were killed in order to preserve these majalis. The Shia of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam in different places of the world for the last thousands of years were slaughtered and massacred and expelled from their homes and from their cities and from their towns, and genocide was carried out against us in order to preserve these majalis. So we have a responsibility. We have a responsibility to not betray, first and foremost, the blood of Al Hussein alayhi salam, and then the blood of the shuhada that gave their lives to preserve this religion and preserve this majlis. This amana that we have, this amana means in order for me to uphold the commemoration of Al Hussein alayhi salam, in order for me to return the gratitude to Al Hussein alayhi salam, we can never repay him. You can never repay Imam Al Hussein alayhi salam. You can't. You can at the very least maintain the dignity of this majlis and not be an embarrassment. We don't want to be people that bring shame to Abu Abdullah. We don't want to fail Abu Abdullah alayhi salam. How do I fail Al Hussein alayhi salam? I'll tell you with a salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The status of Abu Abdullah alayhi salam in the eyes of Allah Ta'ala is a status that we can never comprehend. We can't comprehend this status. The household of the Holy Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, we can't comprehend their status, their relationship with Allah Ta'ala. It's unfathomable. Yes, we have narrations regarding the fada'il, we have narrations about their merits, some particular narrations about their status. But the actual status of the Imams alayhim salam, we can't understand. We can't even begin to touch.
So if I am going to commemorate this Imam, this commemoration I need to take very seriously, because I'm not commemorating just a regular person. I'm commemorating the one that Allah Ta'ala sends to the earth to preserve His religion and represent Him. Is Allah's ambassador on earth. The ambassador of Allah Ta'ala. If the ambassador of any nation walked in today and we knew that he was the ambassador of such and such a nation, we'd be getting up and giving him a seat and making sure that he's respected and looked after. And he's the ambassador of a secular nation. I'm talking about the ambassador of the King of Kings, the creator of the cosmos, the beginning and the end, the Alpha and the Omega. He who is everything and all things. With Him everything starts, and by Him everything ends. Allah Jalla Jalalu. This is the ambassador of the grand creator. This is His blood which we are talking about. So if I am to commemorate His martyrdom, in order for me to not fail Abu Abdullah alayhi salam, I need to uphold the mission of Al-Hussein. Salamullahi. If I don't understand the mission of Al-Hussein alayhi salam, then I can't uphold it. If my majlis is not aimed at maintaining the momentum of the revolution of Al-Hussein alayhi salam, then I have betrayed Abu Abdullah alayhi salam. I have limited him to this gathering. He's limited. Khalas, we come, we cry, we weep, we beat our chests and we go home. And this is it. This is the scope of Abu Abdullah alayhi salam. And it is unfortunate, extremely unfortunate, that the enemies of Allah Ta'ala have infiltrated our religion and implanted this weak version of Al-Hussein Salamullah. And this muted commemoration of Abu Abdullah. You know, many of you here are Iraqi brothers and sisters, right? During the era of Al-Taghiya La'natullah alayhi Saddam, these majalis, we couldn't hold them in Iraq as we could hold them today, like these commemorations. And the enemies of Allah Ta'ala knew this. They knew this. So when the great Satan, you all know who the great Satan is? If you know who the great Satan is, Sallu ala Muhammad wa alayhi. Shaitanul Akbar. Don't be afraid. America. It's America, right? America is a Shaitanul Akbar today. Don't be afraid of this. Don't ever be afraid. Listen to me. The Majlis of Al-Hussein alayhi salam in the camp of Abu Abdullah, there is no room for cowards. There is no room for cowards. Because it is the cowards at the time of Al-Hussein alayhi salam which led to his death. And we'll get to that shortly. So the great Satan came under the name of liberation to liberate the people of Iraq, and they said to them, look, for 30 odd years Saddam banned you from these majalis. We've come to restore, because you know they love Islam. We've come to restore and revive the Majlis of Al-Hussein. Mourn for Al-Hussein as much as you want. Hold these grand processions and these gatherings and cry and weep and beat your chests and your backs and your heads and decorate your homes and the streets and visit Abu Abdullah alayhi salam in the millions. Go and walk and have this international assembly of Arba'een which Saddam banned you from. But do not dare to challenge our authority over your resources. You must be humiliated in front of us. This is what they wanted. Unfortunately, there were some of the weak amongst us who succumbed to this and bought into this lie. But Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, our grand Maraji', may Allah Ta'ala preserve them, in Najaf and in Qom, saw right through this. And they said, how can I commemorate Al-Hussein alayhi salam whilst accepting the humility and to be humiliated by America? How can I accept dhillah and then commemorate hayhat minna dhillah? How can I do this? Brothers and sisters, today not every majlis of Al-Hussein alayhi salam is a majlis of Al-Hussein alayhi salam. Let's get that out there. Not every majlis of Al-Hussein. Not every time Al-Hussein alayhi salam is mentioned, the true Hussein is mentioned. There is one slogan for Abu Abdullah's rising. There is one objective for Al-Hussein alayhi salam. There is one aim of his mission. And if that aim is not upheld in these majalis, and if this majlis is not a majlis which promotes the slogan of Al-Hussein alayhi salam, then this majlis has stabbed Al-Hussein in his back. And that slogan is Al-Islah fi ummati jaddi, reformation in the ummah of my grandfather. If your majlis is not a majlis of reformation, if your mourning is not a mourning of reformation, if your latam is not a latam of reformation, then it is not Husseini in any way, shape or form. And when we speak about reformation in the coming nights, we are talking about absolute reformation, because Al-Hussein alayhi salam is a representative of the absolute Allah Ta'ala. Allah Ta'ala has no limits. Therefore, the mission of Al-Hussein alayhi salam has no limits. This reform must encompass and engulf all of the cosmos and all of the existence, from the reformation of your nafs, your very soul, to the reformation of your families, to the reformation of your societies, all the way up to reforming the entire globe and cosmos, and bestowing upon the creation, all the creation of Allah Ta'ala, لِيُظْهِرَهُ عَلَى الدِّينِ كُلِّهِ وَلَوْ كَرِهَ الْمُشْرِكُونَ. Allah Ta'ala insists that this religion of Al-Hussein, وَجَدِّ الْحُسَيْنِ وَأَبَى الْحُسَيْنِ وَأُمِّ الْحُسَيْنِ, this religion, Allah Ta'ala says in the Holy Quran, its objective is to surpass and encompass and eradicate all other religions and isms. The Majlis of Al-Hussein alayhi salam must reform you. The Majlis of Al-Hussein alayhi salam must reform the society in which this Majlis takes part in today. The Majlis of Al-Hussein alayhi salam must reform the world. And in a year like this year that we are in today. And inshallah I'll end with this. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. This year the majalis of Abu Abdullah alayhi salam come with a different flavor. A very different flavor. Do you agree? Do you agree that time has passed and things have gotten stranger? And there is a very strange atmosphere this year, Muharram. Something is hanging in the air. It is as if something big is about to happen. Is it just me? Have I lost my mind, or do you feel this? Do you feel that the world is experiencing the pains, the birth pains of the future? That the future of humanity right now is being written by the blood of the martyrs. Do you feel this? So do you feel that it is right for this Muharram to be like any other Muharram that has passed? I saw Al-Hussein alayhi salam this year before the advent of Muharram more than I have ever seen him. this blood that was shed in Karbala, this holy blood, listen, the earth cannot tolerate the blood of the awliya of Allah. Once the blood of the awliya of Allah Ta'ala is spilled on this earth, the earth begins to enter a particular process. I'm a believer. Things begin to happen. We'll discuss them in the coming nights. These majalis this year bore their fruits. We can see today the school of Karbala and the school of Imam Hussein, when the entire world, the Muslim before the non-Muslim, betrayed the Muslims of this ummah. Do you feel betrayed? Betrayed the Muslims of this ummah. Took part in their slaughter. We are now in the 9th month of the aggression on Gaza. And this is not an aggression on Gaza only. It's an aggression on every single one of us. You will feel in the coming days the pains of his aggression against you and I, the Muslims, the believers in Sydney, Australia. Wallahi will. And remember that I said, when the Muslim world, 1.5 billion and more, turned their backs on their brothers and sisters in Gaza, brothers, sisters, it is Al Hussein alayhi salam and the Majlis of Al Hussein alayhi salam and those who beat their chests for Al Hussein alayhi salam and those who weep for Al Hussein alayhi salam that showed up and preserved the dignity of this ummah. We the minority, and we say it proudly, we the minority, we the Shia of Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, through the blessings of these majalis and what these majalis have taught us. These majalis, brothers and sisters, our ancestors, our grandparents intended, our imams, Allah Ta'ala intended that these majalis be recruiting fields, that these majalis be training grounds, that these majalis be schools of indoctrination in the army of reform, al-islah fi ummat Muhammad. Today, we, the carriers of this banner, are at the forefront not only of fighting the killers of the children of Gaza, but we are at the forefront of reforming this ummah. Reformation today is taking place thanks to these majalis and the blood that was given in order to preserve this majalis. The Muslim and the non-Muslim both look towards the majalis of Abu Abdullah alayhi salam. They look towards them and they want to know, what is it about these majalis that allow these Shia to take on the Goliaths, not one Goliath, the Goliaths of your era today? What is it about this mourner, this person who stands staunch in the face of the Zionist entity and in the face of the great Satan and all the powers of the world alone? This fierce warrior, what is it about him that allows him to sit humbly in the Majlis of Al Hussein alayhi salam and weep like a child, but at the same time defy the whole world? We are powerful because of these majalis. If we direct them, if you disarm these majalis, brothers and sisters, if these majalis and these gatherings become simply folkloric gatherings, gatherings of culture and tradition, gatherings limited to weeping and crying and giving out food, then you have betrayed this ummah. You have disarmed this ummah of its greatest weapon, that weapon which is Al-Hussein ibn Ali alayhi salam. So I welcome you I welcome you on your first night in the training camp of reform. You have now officially entered the camp of the battalions of Imam al-Mahdi salamullah alayhi. You are in his presence tonight. He is the host of this majlis, and he is the lowliest of hosts. Can you imagine being the host of a gathering? All the guests would know one another and greet one another and sit and talk with one another, but none of them even know you are present. Sahib al-Asr wal-Zaman is our host. You are his guest tonight. And you are the guests of his mother Fatima alayha salam. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to lift our levels in the eyes of Fatima salamullahi alayhi, and to make us amongst those that she picks, as the narration says, on the day of judgment. She will pick her Shia as a bird picks seeds and takes them to heaven. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal that our mother Fatima alayha salam sees that we have not betrayed the blood of her son Abu Abdullah alayhi salam. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم واهلك عدوهم. اللهم إنا نرغب إليك في دولة كريمة تعز بها الإسلام وأهله وتذل بها النفاق وأهله، وتجعلنا فيها من الدعاة إلى طاعتك والقادة إلى سبيلك، وترزقنا بها كرامة الدنيا والآخرة بمحمد وعترته الطاهرة صلواتك عليه وعليهم أجمعين.